With 5 rounds in front of them and the belt on the line, to say that these 10 fighters disappointed on fight night would be putting it lightly. And when it comes to our first entry, there was definitely a combination of things in play. Eddie Alvarez was a veteran of the fight game and a guy who had already won promotional titles in every single organization he had fought in. Was Conor McGregor just that much better than him? Was Eddie psyched out by the occasion, or perhaps even the mental warfare? Perhaps it was just a terrible matchup, but Conor went out there and butchered the Underground King, turning in one of the all-time great championship performances. Eddie, on the other hand, looked lost in there, totally helpless and unable to get his own game going, until some brief moments of success in round 2, just before Conor finished him with a beautiful 4-punch combo. A disastrous way to lose your title for Alvarez. 2 other men who have ties to Conor McGregor come in next in the form of the great Rafael dos Anjos and the challenger to his throne, Donald Cerrone. RDA was truly on fire at this point in time, and after beating elites like Anthony Pettis and Benson Henderson to establish himself as the #1 in the world, he took advantage of Cowboy's infamously slow start and vulnerability to body shots, hammering the veteran with a big kick before unloading a brutal barrage. Cerrone just didn't have anything for RDA here, and he basically just shelled up and was beaten down for the next 20 seconds before the ref decided that enough was enough. Cerrone never got another shot at UFC gold, and there's no way he came out of this fight with anything other than some real disappointment in his performance. But for as much as losing in just over a minute is a tough night out, when Sean Strickland shocked the world by dominating Israel Adesanya, it was a drawn-out 5-round performance. There was just something about Strickland's constant forward pressure and his bizarre style of defense that did not sit well with Izzy early on. And when Strickland managed to badly hurt and drop Adesanya at the end of round 1, it was a sequence that Israel just didn't fully recover from, mentally at least. He didn't look driven to try and mount a comeback at any point, and by the time round 5 came, Strickland was totally in control, demanding that Izzy throw down with him. But instead, the champ continued to retreat and lost his title in the process. Remember, if you're enjoying this content, be sure to leave a like and a comment before subscribing to the channel so you don't miss a single upload. On the long list of thoroughly disappointing performances in the history of this sport, could it be said that no fighter has ever looked as bad in a title fight as Ronda Rousey did when she took on Amanda Nunes? From the first exchange, Ronda looked awkward, off balance, and totally hopeless in the face of the legit power of the Lioness. And once Nunes realized that Rousey was going to be a punching bag for her, she walked forward with absolutely no fear at all. And this was a UFC championship fight and a pay-per-view main event. Ronda had nothing for Nunes in there. It was a shockingly bad attempt at a rebound, and Rousey's reputation never recovered from it. When Dana White wants a fresh new contender to beat a reigning champion, he's usually not very subtle about it. And when Tyron Woodley had gotten on the promotion's bad side on more than one occasion, it seemed as though Darren Till was the knight in shining armor that Dana had been hoping for. With a striking background and a long frame for the division, could this kickboxing finally be the one to break through Woodley's extremely awkward style? Unfortunately, on fight night, Darren Till did, well, he kind of did nothing. He bounced at range, waiting for the perfect strike to come. When it didn't, Woodley found it instead, dropping him with a huge shot before pounding him out on the mat and securing a fight-ending Darcy choke, a truly meek performance from Till. Look, it's hard to put on a good performance against a fighter like Jon Jones, but Cyril Gane really did not do himself any favors. Not only did he seem weirdly reluctant to engage early on, but once Jones shot in for his first takedown attempt, Gane's lack of defensive wrestling and BJJ skills became extremely apparent. Sure, having Jon Jones on top is going to be tough for anyone, but by the time Jon locked in that choke that tapped Cyril out, the entire audience were basically left wondering how he had made it look that easy. The answer? Gane was out of his depth. Some fighters just look like they've been beaten before the fight even starts, and Megan Anderson kind of fit that bill prior to stepping in there with Amanda Nunes. Nunes had a very easy night in here. Anderson may have had some physical gifts that could have made her awkward for a lesser opponent, but the Lioness ran through Anderson like she wasn't even there, hurting her on her feet before getting the sub in just over 2 minutes, the definition of easy work for the champ. When Jon Jones became the youngest champion in UFC history at the age of 23, he did so by taking out a legend of the sport in Shogun Rua. Now, here's the thing. It's a lot easier to look at what Jones did and give him his well-deserved credit for being that good. But Shogun was so out of his depth here that we couldn't leave him off this list. Over the course of 3 extremely brutal rounds, Rua was basically thrown around the octagon by Jones, made to look like an old technology trying to outwork a supercomputer. Jones was too physical, too technical, and too intelligent for Shogun, and when the finish finally came, the fact that Shogun was in the middle of tapping out to strikes tells you everything. That's an all-time great 205-pounder right there, and Jones just destroyed him. Colby Covington talked so much trash in the lead-up to his title shot against Leon Edwards, and of course, he does this for every fight. But after manufacturing so much beef with Leon, you'd expect that he would bring at least some intensity on fight night. But no, whether it was because of Leon's ability to outfeint him, or just Colby having an off night, we ended up with a fight that was fought purely at Leon's pace, which, if you don't know, is generally always a low output kind of fight. Covington, who usually does bring high volume, basically did very little over the 5 rounds and left with a loss on his record. Good luck getting another shot at the belt after that. Not the best championship fight you'll ever see, that's for sure. But if you're looking for a contender for the single worst title fight in UFC history, the rematch between Rose Namajunas and Carla Esparza is a good contender. At least with a fight like Israel Adesanya versus Yoel Romero, you knew that something could happen at any moment. But for some reason, despite having a huge speed and overall striking skill advantage, Rose played it incredibly safe, to the point where every single person watching this fight was wondering why she didn't just up her intensity even a little bit. The victory was literally there for the taking, but every time she went back to her corner, her team were encouraging her to keep fighting this way. It looked like Thug Rose could have easily won if she just tapped on the gas, and yet she didn't. When the 5 rounds were over, Esparza, who didn't do that much either, was declared the winner. A bizarre fight.